Hi there, welcome to the Met Office forecast for the week ahead. Certainly been an interesting week so far with scenes like this for some. For many, it's a case of crisp winter sunshine dominating proceedings for the first week or so of January as Arctic air surrounds the UK, and it stays that way as we start the upcoming week. But the more typical Atlantic-driven weather that we often see during the autumn and the winter in the UK, well, that's going to make 3 attempted comebacks this week, and as it clashes with the existing Arctic air, there'll be some interesting weather to talk about in the next few minutes. But we start the week, as I say, with Arctic air. That means there'll be some slippery surfaces across northern, eastern, western parts of the UK as we start Tuesday, following showers on Monday and Monday night. But then the first attempted comeback from the Atlantic begins to show its hand, and that is an occluding weather front that starts to move in from the northwest on Tuesday morning. Now, ahead of that, widely bright, yes, but a frosty start, and like I say, some icy surfaces to watch out for first thing. But we soon see the cloud and rain arrive into Scotland, turning to snow in many parts of Scotland and then northern England during Tuesday as it bumps into that cold air. Now, we're talking about a patchy 1 to 5 centimetres of snow for northern England and Scotland, but significantly more over higher parts and in some lower parts, 10 to 15 centimetres, where the cold air is more stubborn to clear away. So we're talking about central and eastern Scotland predominantly for that, perhaps parts of northeast England. The front, though, responsible, continues its journey southeastwards during Tuesday night, this is, and mostly this is rain and hill snow, but it could lead to a few flakes of lower level snow across parts of eastern England during the hours of darkness Tuesday night into the start of Wednesday. So that's another watch area. That's a couple of centimetres, could result in some small disruption across East Anglia and northeast England during Wednesday morning. Colder air comes south again behind that system as we start off Wednesday with once more icy patches about. But just jumping back to Tuesday afternoon, ahead of the system, there'll be plenty of dry weather across the Midlands, the east and southeast of England, sunny spells and feeling cold, whilst the cloud, rain and hill snow continues in the north and west. Now we clear that through by the start of Wednesday, and Wednesday begins again with some icy patches, a widespread frost, that cold feel as Arctic air returns southwards following that first attempted comeback of the Atlantic. And with that Arctic air in place on Wednesday, there'll be further sleet and snow showers, particularly this time North Sea coastal areas, perhaps northern Scotland once again, but brighter and drier further west, at least for now. But on Wednesday, whilst Arctic air surrounds the UK, interesting things are happening in the Atlantic. The Atlantic jet stream starts to power up, and it's likely to deepen an area of low pressure and send it towards the UK. This low will contain much milder air. It will also contain a lot of rain and wind, but it will bump into the cold air in place across the UK. So things are likely to turn very interesting later Thursday as a result. Now, the start of Thursday ahead of that low, well, begins once again with a widespread frost, some slippery surfaces around, but plenty of dry and bright weather, some decent sunny spells, particularly towards the east. Through the day on Thursday, we're likely to see the cloud increase from the west, the wind pick up as this Atlantic low approaches, and it's going to send its rain in from the southwest as the day gets going. Before that, though, eastern areas staying mostly dry and bright, with temperatures once more below average for the time of year, 2 to 4 Celsius typically. But it's at this point that a lot of uncertainty emerges to do with the track of the Atlantic low itself. And to demonstrate this uncertainty, I'd like to show 2 different weather simulations from the Met Office model and one of the runs of the European model. We don't just run these supercomputers once, we run them lots of times to account for chaos theory, the idea that a subtle change at the start of a forecast can lead to big differences by the end of the forecast. And at first, 1 a.m. Thursday, These computer simulations look the same. We've got the developing area of low pressure in the Atlantic in roughly the same place for both of them. Slightly different shape, slightly different latitude, slightly different timings. But watch how these differences start to emerge as we go through Thursday and as the low approaches the UK. This is the Met Office model. It sends the low on a track through parts of North Wales into the North Midlands, whilst this particular simulation from the European model sends it on a much further south track across northern France. Actually, in the grand scheme of things, there's not much difference between the tracks and timings of this area of low pressure, a few hundred miles, but that makes a big difference in terms of the impacts of the weather where you happen to live. And that's because if we take a look at the summary of all these different tracks, like I say, not much of a difference, but there's a very big difference in terms of the weather impacts either side of this area of low pressure. Now, the bottom graphic that I just showed is one of the furthest south simulations, and that's that line there along northern France, whilst the Met Office simulation, well, that follows a track close to this run of the European model, much further north. In reality, most of the tracks are somewhere in between. Not much difference in terms of the latitude of these areas of low pressure, but a big difference in the consequences. This is the Met Office track. It takes a more northerly track, and it's considered the least likely because it doesn't have as much support from other computer model simulations. But what it would do is it would lead to widespread disruptive wind and rain across many parts of England, Wales, perhaps into southern Scotland and Northern Ireland, with some areas, Northern Ireland, southern Scotland, parts of the Pennines into the North Midlands, higher parts of Wales, seeing disruptive snow. This is a 20% chance. But slightly more likely is this northern France track, and this would lead to much of the wind and rain disruption being taken into northern France, whilst its southern counties of England seeing the risk of disruption from snow, especially higher parts of southern England. What's more likely is something in between, a 50% chance of this happening. Wind and rain for southern parts of the UK, central areas seeing the risk of disruption from snow. So 3 scenarios there, depending on the track of the low and the associated impacts from snow, which will be on the northern flank of the low, wind and rain on the southern flank. Either way, that low is moving away during Friday and into Saturday. So Friday is an improving picture through the day. Whatever resulting weather we get, it's clearing away. Arctic air then returns across the country for the start of Saturday. Saturday starts dry, bright, frosty, icy patches, and so on. But the third comeback from the Atlantic weather takes place on Saturday, and this much larger area of low pressure, much more dominant across the Atlantic and taking a more northerly track, begins to move in. Could be a few flakes of snow on the northern and eastern flank of this low as it moves into the UK, but mostly this is going to replace the Arctic air with wind and rain and much milder weather by the end of the weekend. So 3 attempted comebacks from the Atlantic, 3 areas of low pressure to watch out for this week with snow in places, but a lot of uncertainty about that midweek event, and we'll keep you posted right here on the Met Office website and YouTube channel. Bye-bye.